So my name is Catherine Eschle, and I'm a senior lecturer at the University of Strathclyde, which is in Glasgow, Scotland. I work in feminist international relations scholarship, broadly defined. I've been working since the start of my career on the relationship of social movements to feminism, social movement politics to feminism. I've increasingly become interested in what feminist anti-nuclear activists have to say about the global nuclear order, and also trying to think about feminist anti-nuclear activism from a feminist IR perspective. So perhaps I've already said that. My area of expertise is feminist international relations, and trying to develop a feminist approach to thinking about global nuclear politics, which I've been doing for some years now. Since 2007, I think, was the first year that I wrote on this, when I tried to apply Carol Cohn's famous analysis of masculinity and techno-strategic discourse. I tried to apply that to British nuclear policy at the time. So I wrote for a while on British nuclear policy and masculinity, and then I was also, that was with Claire Duncanson of Edinburgh University, and I was also on my own trying to think about feminist anti-nuclear activism as an objective analysis. And then increasingly in the last few years, actually, I've tried to develop a research agenda around bringing together feminist and post-colonial or decolonial approaches to nuclear politics, with a particular focus, but not exclusively, on the Pacific. And I've really been trying to build a research community around that. For a long time, I felt I was the only person in feminist IR working on this topic, and that no one else was that interested. But in recent years, really, we've grown a huge community. It's very vibrant. And there's lots of really interesting people working on this topic, and I've been trying to build connections between us all. Well, I think it stems originally from the fact that my parents were very active in the 1980s, and as part of that, used to take me along to Green and Common Women's Peace Camp and other similar spaces, and I think that left a kind of indelible mark on me, which I keep coming back to repeatedly in my adult life. And it's kind of resurfaced for me when I started my job here in Strathclyde, because Glasgow is less than 30 miles away from Her Majesty's Naval Base Clyde, on the Clyde, where the UK stores its nuclear weapons. So I then went along to an academic blockade of Faslane, which is what the naval base is informally referred to. That moment for me, when I tried to present academic research about nuclear weapons in a space while I was trying to confront the nuclear state with, other people in struggle, that's when it all kind of came together for me. And ever since then, I've been working on different aspects of these issues. So my route to get here is, yes, I guess I've talked about the, activist elements to this, but really my route to my academic work is otherwise quite conventional. I've been, I went straight through from undergraduate to PhD. I did a master's in international relations at the LSE, and then I did a PhD in social and political thought at Sussex, where part of what I was looking at was related to social movements and international relations. And then I moved to Strathclyde, and I think a lot of it is to do with proximity and serendipity is where you end up, and the people that you meet. So that's part of the story too. I passionately believe that gender is an important part of the picture of why nuclear weapons retain such a hold on the political imagination and in our strategies for achieving security. And although some of that is becoming more well known, I think we still have quite a narrow understanding of what that is. And currently, for example, there's a lot of emphasis on bringing women into nuclear spaces. I'm not convinced that that's going to change anything very much. There are really deep-rooted kind of symbolic structures and relations of power, which we need to tackle here. And also, of course, what's important to recognise is how gender intersects with racialized and colonial and post-colonial hierarchies in maintaining the global nuclear order. And I think still a lot of work needs to be done in exposing that and in challenging that and in giving a platform to those many activist voices that for a long time have been challenging that, but which need a wider audience. So, you know, I think it's not the whole story, but it's an important part of the story as to why nuclear weapons have such on us. And, you know, nuclear weapons pose an existential threat to humanity and to the planet. But more than that, a feminist post-colonial or decolonial analysis shows that they've already fundamentally distorted, deformed, damaged people's lives, cut people's lives short, destroyed many people's lands and environments in many communities around the world. And a lot of that gets silenced basically in mainstream discourses about nuclear weapons. We don't see it. We think of nuclear weapons as these abstract, shiny, hidden technologies that are somehow devoid of costs unless they're actually used in some putative future conflict. Well, they've already had enormous costs for humanity and for the world. And a feminist analysis is crucial to exposing that. So, okay, well, all of it. It's hard to put my finger on one thing. I think, obviously there is, the nuclear order is currently undergoing sustained destabilization from several revisionist nuclear powers, which is what most people are really worried about at the moment. For example, with Russia's grandstanding in the invasion of Ukraine. But for me, I think that just exposes what was always the underlying instability and inhumanity of the system. And so for me, it's more the continuities actually in the underlying relations of power that are remaining unchallenged. So what happens at the moment with this discourse around, rogue states or those states who aren't behaving responsibly in relation to nuclear weapons is that we ignore the responsibility of those states who describe themselves as responsible nuclear states, who nonetheless are who build their power on the back of the erasure and exploitation of many, particularly indigenous communities around the world, and who actually are responsible in many ways for failing to push and blocking the disarmament agenda at every turn. So I think actually for me it's the stagnation in the system that I'm most concerned about and which I would like to see challenged. There are signs of hope, I think, in this incredible resilience of many communities around the world in continuing to challenge these and in developments like the Treaty for the Prohibition on Nuclear Weapons. So it's not all bleak, but nonetheless, I think there are real ongoing problems, and it's those that I would like to see more given more critical attention.